All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So, what I'm going to call this podcast is I like spending one-on-one time with my kids. Does that make sense? I think I said that correctly. And, I learned this at a very, I can't say young age, but when at first I should say, I learned this when my kids started to get kind of in kindergarten or first grade. Because I think, like a lot of parents, if you have, kids that are close in age, I guess you could say, a lot of times we kind of do everything together, which is understandable, right? Especially for the first 5 years of my daughter's life, they're only basically 14 months apart, two girls, and everything we did, we always did together. And we lived in Chicago for a little bit because one of my daughters had a liver transplant, but for the most part, we lived in Orlando, Florida, so we would hit all the parks and live the Florida lifestyle. I call us professional tourists. But what I realized as my kids were getting older that one always wanted to do something different than the other. And believe me, I get the spoiled aspect of that, right? Because they should just be happy in general. But what I realized when they started to get a little older, one was kind of more of a tomboy, wanted to play sports, and the other one was really involved with fashion. But I was kind of always dragging the one that loved fashion and modeling and all that to the one that loved sports because I like sports. Even though I did like fashion, but what am I going to do with a girl who's 5, 6, 7 years old? And to make a long story short, I finally had to just acknowledge me and say, you know what? These two have nothing in common, nor does the other enjoy when they're doing something else, what the other likes to do. They also need a break from one another. That was my theory. They just needed that break. Besides just going to school together, then you come home and they hang out. But a lot of times, I'm not saying they were sick of each other, but for the most part, they just had totally different interests. So I had to say, you know what? I'm going to do sports and kind of set it up where my daughter gets to play her sports. And my other one wanted to start doing acting or modeling for some reason at a very young age. I think she knew about me doing modeling when I was younger, even though she didn't see photos. She may have heard it, and her mother being in pageants and things, being a beautiful woman, I think she saw photos. First, she actually wanted to be in pageants. To be honest, I wasn't necessarily down with that. I said, I'll just wait till she gets older. And then for some reason, she had a nightmare, didn't want to do it. And then she wanted to do modeling. I said, well, we're going to wait a little bit for that. You're young, but you like acting as well. So I started to take her to acting classes besides me working with her. But I, separated our time. Not only outside of the home, but inside the home too. So I would work separately with them. So one, if she was playing lacrosse, football, soccer, whatever, I would go play in the yard with her, or just my other daughter would be with her mother, or just even take them to sporting events, whatever they wanted to do independently. And then my other daughter, again, was doing theater. Then they ended up actually both doing dance. But then as time went on, one went more sports and the other one ended up in modeling, doing shows. But I split my time in half. And the only thing we started to do a lot together was movies. And then, of course, we ate dinners together, and we were still together a lot. But I would even break my weekends up. During the day, I would have to drop this one off, and then I had this one if I couldn't, my ex-wife. We would figure it out, or friends. But to this day, and the reason I bring this up is because I don't know if you go through this with your kids, but a lot of times, even though they're sisters, they, as much as they kind of have in common, they don't have in common. And, even down to the restaurants, I don't know if you go through this, if you have kids or whatever, like, no matter who you go with, again, they're spoiled, I get it a lot of times, but a lot of times they just don't like certain foods, or all 3 or 4 or 6 of us, whoever's with us, can't seem to agree. But when it's 3 of us, me and my 2 daughters, I love going to dinner with both of them, but I really enjoy going to dinner separately with them. And I just did this, and what reminds me of this is Friday. So I was going, and what's funny is they both love Mexican food, but they can't seem to agree on always the restaurant that they want to go to. And we, for one, kept going to one of my older daughter's favorite Mexican restaurants and not my younger ones. So my youngest one said, hey, I want to go to this restaurant. I said, all right, yeah, for sure. And she's like, I'll hit my sister up and see if she wants to meet us. The sister said no, she refuses to go there. She wants to go to another place. And she's like, F that. I've been wanting to go here. Do you mind? I said, of course not. And then the other older daughter said, after you guys are done eating, I'll meet you for crepes or for dessert. Because they know it kind of works for us that way. it wasn't like my oldest daughter got mad at my youngest because, she was going with me only or us going to a different restaurant. She knows, like last week, me and my daughter, she wanted to go to Outback, which is hilarious. She likes the steaks there sometimes. And then we went for crepes again. And we enjoy each other's company independently. If you're a parent, I don't think a lot of times, in my opinion, a lot of parents realize that independent, relationship with each child independently. A lot of times for years, even when I would live in California, I'd fly in or whatever, a lot of stuff I would still be doing independent. It wasn't always together. They'd be like, hey, where's your other daughter? I'm like, well, she didn't want to do this. She wants to do this. I'm going to do that with her later. I want to do this. But if I want both of them to come, they'll come. But on social media, one liked to take photos, one didn't. But a lot of times I would be doing things independently with them. And they really seem to enjoy it. Because not only do they get a break from one another, because they both live together, but we were able to go do things that we enjoy, not only them, but things that I enjoyed that I knew one liked and one may not have liked, if that makes sense. So the other day, my daughter surprised me, for instance. I brought up on the podcast and took me rock climbing. My youngest daughter doesn't like to do anything physical or work out. So we love doing that independently again. The other day I went with my older daughter again and we worked out at a gym. My younger daughter doesn't like to work out, but I told my oldest daughter, I'm going to go work out. She says, I'll go with you to your gym. My point being is, it's when you start doing things like that again, not only independently for what they want to do, but independently that you like to do and they like to enjoy doing with you, do it. It could be even movies. My oldest daughter loves sci-fi. She loves horror films. She loves all that type of stuff. My younger daughter does not. So a lot of times we just go to those movies with her. And then my daughter likes another style movies. I go with her. I'll literally go to a movie sometimes with one of my daughters and she'll leave and the other one comes and meets me. And that may sound kind of crazy, but I'm telling you, if you're a parent, it's huge. And I really started doing that, I think, at around 7, 8 years old, just really wanting a total independent relationship. Of course, I have a relationship with us three, but I also have a very strong relationship independently. Because when it comes to so many things, they're so different. It could be even their political views, their religious views. And I think, too, sometimes when you have siblings or something, when they just have one parent that's listening to them and kind of going back and forth, you don't have that other sibling there to kind of argue or dispute or bring up or throw out old shit or, it's just different. So that's the reason I did this podcast. I'm not telling anybody how to parent, but I am telling you one of the things that I enjoyed most throughout my life as being a parent now that they're in their 20s is doing things independent. And also I think it helps with, I know this sounds kind of crazy, because I do think a lot of siblings get jealous when it comes to parents. And I'm not one to play the bullshit game to say, I gave you this, I got to give you this now. Or I did this with you, I got to do this now. I'll do whatever the hell I want to do with whoever I want to do it when I want to do it. That goes for them too. Like 1 minute I took my daughter to Savannah. She wanted to take the ride and spend the week there. That's cool. And then when I came back, my other daughter wanted to do South Florida. I just went and took her. I wasn't like, I have to take both of yous. Sometimes I'll even be like, hey, I'll take one of yous, not both of yous. Sometimes I'll take both. It varies. But sometimes I also have to be in the mood because a lot of times when they're together, I know they're sick of one another or they may be aggravated with each other. Who the hell knows what's going on in their household? But anyways, these are all just different things that I like to sometimes bring up on the podcast because I don't think maybe a lot of people necessarily think about these things, especially when first having a child or children. They have like a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, or a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and you're always bunching everything together, and you're always doing this kind of what maybe one child wants to do or only what the parents want to do. Break it up. I'm telling you, it's fun. That's all I got for you today. If you got any questions or comments, just hit me up. Take care, and I wish you nothing but the best.